Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Programming Forecast. In last tutorial, we have initiated our Node.js project and installed Express to our project. We have also made some folders as well, but we didn't write a single line of backend code because first we needed to understand the project foundation. So today we will create other folders that we will be needing in future into our project. But before that, have a glance at the topics which you're gonna learn throughout this journey. So let me open first the list of my topics of this playlist for you so that you could understand easily what you will be learning throughout this journey. So there are 30 to 40 lessons divided in 6 modules, as you can see. Module number 1, project setup, then the database design, then registration, login, authorization, and security. And by the end of this series, you will by the end of the series, you will have built a complete authentication system, and you will know and you will be an expert on these topics. So let's not further delay, get into our code. Before writing code, we will create some other folders and explain what these folders will contain. This will give you a brief idea about your my working strategy. So let's create a folder. Let's open our Node project first. Then we will create some other folders. I have already created them, so you have to create it by your own. Okay, so this is my Node project. So in our first tutorial, we have created some folders like controllers, services, middlewares, utils. So now we will create some other folders. So our first folder will be config. So create the config folder under src or source folder. So this folder will have all of our configuration files, such as the environment file, the log file, the database file under this configs folder. You can think of this folder as the application settings. Okay, next is constant folder. Okay, let me explain what controllers will be doing first. So we have created the controllers folder before. So controllers receives request from Express. The controller decides what should happen next, and a controller should not contain all your business logics. That's why we have created our service layer or service folder, because we want to keep our controller light. So the main responsibilities of a controller is receiving the request, validating request data, calling the service layer, and then returning the response to the client. Now the service layer. So this is where business logic lives. For example, for a registration system, you will need some logics like checking whether the email exists, whether hashing exists, and then hashing the password, creating a user, sending a verification email to the user. So these logics belong to the service layer. And then make the repositories folder. So repositories communicate with MongoDB. So instead of calling the CRUD operation of a database like user.create, user.find1, so this kind of CRUD operation, instead of calling them from many different places, we centralize database access in a single file. So this separation makes the code easier to test and maintain. So after creating repositories folder, okay, let's talk about models. We have created this folder before. So this contains the Mongoose models, the user model, the buyer model for a e-commerce site, admin. The user model means what kind of data a user can have, like the username, user phone number, email, password. As you know that MongoDB saves data in a document format. So a model defines the shape of the data stored in database. Next is our routes folder. So we have already created it. So this maps the URLs to the controllers. Okay, so in our root folder, we will have all the APIs. We will be creating the APIs under this folder. Then the middleware. So middleware runs before or after a request reaches to the controller. Example can be authentication middleware, validation, logging, error handling. So these are the middlewares. Okay, now the validators. Create a folder called validators, VALIDATORS. So these shared helper functions like generating JWT, the validators contains the validation schema. Instead of scattering validation rules throughout our code, we will keep them in a place. And next is the utils, and these utils shared helper functions like generating JWT, hashing password, sending mail, creating random tokens. Okay, so next is constants. So this is application wide constants. Instead of the writing the fixed values that we will be needing throughout our application in different files, we will store them in a single place. Okay, then we will create our files app.js and server.js. So under app.js, add this 3 line of code, and I will explain these lines for you. And at server.js, add these 4 to 5 lines of code first. Okay, and we have to make some changes in our package.json. Under package.json, we have to replace our previous scripts with these 2 lines, dev and start. And dev is for the development environment and start is for the production. So you can see under dev there is nodemon source/server, because server.js is our entry point, and you have to add the entry point in this main section, and we will start our application from server.js file, not app.js file. Okay, so server.js file is our entry point. So you have to add this under the main, and also under dev. Under dev, you have to write nodemon space source/server.js. So what is nodemon? Nodemon is basically a tool that actually restart your server every single time you save it. You can also enable autosave from file, so you don't have to save manually after making any changes to your project. It will autosave the project, and after saving it, the nodemon will start your server automatically, restart your server automatically. So we will use nodemon only in development mode, but in production mode, we will use this script. Okay, now go to the app.js and I will explain everything. Oh, okay, as you can see in app.js we are using ES modules because we are using import express from express. So we are using ES modules. So to use ES modules, you have to add this line type module in your package.json. If you don't have it in your package.json, then kindly add this line, otherwise your server will not start and your project will give errors. Okay, so we are importing express. Node is importing express. Whenever you write import express from express, node searches for the library express in node modules. Then we are declaring an object of express here under the variable name app, and we are exporting the app so that from other file we can call app, or we can use this variable, use this object of express. As you can see in server.js, we have imported the variable app we before exported here. We have imported this app, and then we have used this app in this line. So I will explain what these lines are doing actually. So as you can see, there is the line const port is equal 5000. So what is the port? Port is mainly a door. You can say it is like a door of a house from where your requests will be entering. Like your PC has a IP address, right? So like that, every single program needs a port to start on. So we are using port number 5000 to start in our Node project. Okay. So now what this line app.listen is doing, as we said, that port is our door. And so if imagine your door is open, imagine you open a shop, but before opening the shop customer cannot enter, doors are closed, but after opening customers can walk in and employees begin serving requests. So app.listen tells Node that I just start listening for incoming HTTP requests on this port. So I am ready. Requests can be listen, or the request can come through this port. Okay, so this is actually listening. Listen does. So if I said what happens internally app.listen, then I have to share a flowchart with you to make you understand. Okay, let me. So this is the flowchart. So this is the execution order actually. So many beginners think app.js run first, but it doesn't. Okay, so let me explain. Our main entry point is server.js, and in server.js we have imported the app. Okay, so imports app.js, then this line goes to the app.js file and it executes it, and it finds the line exports app, and it then come back to the server.js, and then it calls the listen method. Okay, then this is the internal work, and under app.listen is happening. So let me explain every single box for you of this flowchart. The first one is server.js. So this is basically your code from where your code exists. So in server.js you simply write app.listen on port number 5000, and then Express application. So remember, under app.js file we have declared express object under app variable. This is the line. So this creates the object of express under app variable, and this apps knows the roots, the middlewares, the roots, and the controllers. But it still doesn't know networking. Express itself cannot receive internet requests actually. Then we have Node HTTP server. So many people don't know this. Internally, Express does something similar to we have showed you before, similar to this http.create server. So Express uses Node's built-in HTTP model. Basically, Node is actually doing the networking. Express only helps organizing your application. Okay, then the box number 4 is the operating system. So now Node asks Linux or Windows as your what is your operating system is. So now Node asks your operating system, can I use port number 5000? Then the operating system checks, is any other program already running in it? If yes, then you will get a message that yes, other programs are running, so you can't use port 5000. And if there is no program running, then Linux reserve the 5000 port for our program or for our project. Okay, now imagine your house has one address. Inside there are many rooms. Similarly, computer has an one IP but many ports like 80, 443, 3000, 5000. Each application listens on a different door. So your Express application chooses the 5000 port. Okay, now box number 6, waiting. Now Node stops executing your JavaScript. Students become confused here. They ask, if JavaScript finished, how does Express still works? But Node enters the event loop. It waits forever until someone sends a request. Okay. Then next, so the next, as you can now tell from these lines of the codes what these lines are doing, let me show you the browser request lifecycle. So this is the flowchart of a browser request lifecycles. So as you can see, this is a complete request lifecycle. Suppose you visit localhost 5000. Let's follow up every step first. Let us run our project first to understand this. In your terminal, just run npm run dev. What does it mean? npm run dev mean in package.json you have a script called dev. Dev means run the node mod from our entry point server.js. Okay, so sorry, it should be npm. Okay, npm run dev, enter. As you can see, our server is running on point. That means our project is working. Now let us see what our server is showing us in browser. Go to localhost, and the port number we have used in our project 5000. Okay, so as you can see, there is a message saying cannot get, then oblique. This is not an error actually. This is what we were expecting in this stage of our project, because as we didn't define any kinds of routes or it didn't define any kinds of API, so our browser is showing us that you don't have any API that is starting from oblique. So this is a very expected result. So okay, now let me explain this for you. So as you can see in browser, whenever we visit localhost 5000, then we press the enter, then browser creates an HTTP GET request. As you can see, this is a GET request with the URL only oblique. Okay, so operating system, then the Linux or your operating system, who owns the port 5000? It asks, the browser asks our operating system that who owns port 5000. Then your operating system replies that Node.js. Okay, look, browser asking operating system who owns this port. Then it is saying our Node.js project is owning this port. Then Linux forward the request, whichever request we have made. As we have made a request, there is no slash or no URL, means there is a default URL slash. Okay, so the default URL is get slash. So Linux or the operating system forward this request, and this request goes to the node. So now in node HTTP goes to the node HTTP server. So now node receives the raw HTTP, and node convert this into objects. Okay, as you can see, convert this into objects. Now the Express. So Express now receives the request and response. So these are incoming message and server responses wrapped by Express, and then the route matching. So Express now checks, do I have a get oblique route? Internally Express searches for through your registered routes. Suppose you have something like, suppose you have a API or a route defined like this, app.get slash or oblique users. Okay, so it compares whether I have a route only belongs to this. It searches throughout your project, and if it doesn't get any route, then it showing then it will give you the message cannot get this route. Okay, so it is showing us no route found, or Express send us 404 error. That is the error we are seeing here, cannot get. This is the 404 error. So browser displays this. So notice nothing crashed. The server is working perfectly. It simply doesn't have a handler for this slash. Okay. So putting everything together, this is what happens when you run your application. Let me show you the flowchart that is happening whenever you are running your application. Okay. As you can see, so whenever we write npm run dev, then it will going to the package.json for our entry point and for the script dev, and then nodemon starts our project, and then server.js starts executing, and it sees the first line import app.js, so it is going to the app.js and then creating the express application. Then after creating express application, we are exporting the app, and it is coming back to the server.js file and receiving the app, and now it is listening on port 5000. Now node http server starts, and it is then operating system reserves a port 5000 for our node project, and then node wait for the request. Node enters the event loop waiting for request. Now browser sends the request, and express checks for the registered routes. If we find any, that it will give us the response, and if no matching route, then it will get us this response 404 cannot get. Okay, so this is the full complete flow of our putting everything together. This is what happens actually whenever we are running our applications. So there is a common confusion between the routes or the routes and the requests. What is the difference between routes and requests? So this is one of the most important concept in Express. Many beginners confuse request and route, but they are completely different. So let's understand them by the example. So imagine a restaurant. Customers came to the restaurant and place orders. Customers orders is the request, and the menu is the routes. The restaurant first checks where the requested food item exists on the menu. If it does, then the chef prepares it, and if it doesn't, the waiter says, sorry, we don't have this in our menu, or we don't serve that. So Express works in the same exact way. So what is a request? A request is the message sent by the client, or the API that a client hit whenever he goes into the app, or whenever he or she using the app. So for example, if your client is the Flutter app, then if your client or if your Flutter app send this get user, okay, so this is the request that we are getting from our clients. And a request usually contains the HTTP method, URL, headers, and optionally can be some body items, and the query parameter. This is also optional. So this is the example of a full request. This is the URL, and this is the host, and then content type, and then this is our body. Okay, the informations we this can be if I, as you can see, post/register. So client is requesting to register at our app, so these are the information he is sending from the client side. So who sends the request? The client sends the requests. Okay, so the client can be the browser, Flutter app, React app, Postman, or anything. The server never creates a request for itself. And what is a route? A route is a rule you define in Express that tells the server if a request with this HTTP method and this URL arrives, then execute this code. Like this is a route example of route. Okay, so this is route and this is request. This doesn't send a request. It only registers a router. Think of it as adding an entry to Express routing table. Okay, so that's all for today. We will again come with our new lesson in our next video. Thank you, everyone.